4 slices of black pudding, a bag of chips and a whippet. So that gives you a sense of what you're in for, so I'm going to hand over to Nick. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very
Welcome.
much. Just so I put the right PG filter in, how old are you? You're 18, okay. Yeah, because I can speak to the audience or pick up nuances of things, and because I've got some latex here, you might be able to imagine where I'm going. So, high altitude ballooning. Why? I do stuff, he says, to be really accurate, stuff with schools, because for a very long time I spent a lot of time doing engineering work with corporate types that was paid the bills and then some, but let's just say there was some bike shedding in some of the meetings to the point of me feigning illness, so they would start arguing about which shade a particular button on the screen should be, and then I'd like lose the will to live. So I needed something to keep me sane, and I couldn't find anything, so instead I started volunteering at my local secondary school. And the students did their very best at keeping me completely insane. And the opportunity arose to go to Raspberry Pi headquarters to learn how to do high altitude ballooning as part of their sort of charitable aims. Raspberry Pi have sort of somewhat grown a bit too big for themselves now, but in those days they would do things like send round an email saying, who wants to learn how to do high altitude ballooning? I put my hand up, even though I wasn't a teacher, STEM ambassador, and I got on the course. So this is one I did recently with a school in Shrewsbury. That's Woody. He did survive, and the whole idea is to introduce these students to something that is slightly less perilous than my preferred choice, which is to take them to a gliding club and get them to put the wings on a glider. Because nothing focuses the mind like actually building your own aeroplane and then flying in it, which is pre-COVID my main hobby. So this is one of the next best things. Unfortunately, it doesn't always work out that they have a sense of peril, but this is how I got into high altitude ballooning. It came up with the Raspberry Pi Foundation. It's a Pi, I know Pi, I know a bit about radio, I know a bit about electronics, I know a lot about bringing all the different moving parts together and making a project happen. And because I have, unfortunately, over the years personally dealt with a few flying accidents on the airfield, I am fairly fastidious about how I get a launch done. Quite a lot of people do launch, and then after 2 or 3 launches they give up because it's just not working for them. That's usually because they're not diligent enough, rather like you suddenly blasting out inappropriate power on an inappropriate band, and you've stood on the push to talk so hard that your foot thinks it's Lego, and obviously Lego is the most painful thing that you can stand on, and you swear, and half of the nation hears your broadcast. So we sort of enjoyed that quite a lot pre-COVID, and then it all sort of went horribly wrong, partly because some of the year groups became, when I say feral, I wasn't even allowed to go to the school for one of the years. They just said, no, we're not exposing you to that level of disaster. But we are back now, trying to do launches with schools. I say we, sort of collectively. As it happens, most schools do like to stick something in harm's way, and then it flies up into the atmosphere. And literally, this is just a polystyrene box with a camera on the outside and a stick. And then the soft toy is another stick to hold him in place. You can figure out the rest.
Sounds painful.
Well, not for me. That goes up. Usually we aim for a magic number. I'm going to have to stop doing that now because it's getting expensive with the helium, which we use with schools. We go for a magic number of 100,000 feet. Anyone know what's at 100,000 feet?
20 miles.
Oh, I was on that.
Yeah, yeah. You go through you're still in the stratosphere. 20 miles. Don't do miles. I can do kilometres. 32 kilometres. Yeah. What else is up there?
Probably not much.
Nothing. Nothing. It's about 1% atmosphere. Perversely, it's actually about 5 degrees centigrade. It does go through an area of minus 40 on the way up, but the actually that height is much more than Everest, or if you were crossing an Atlantic jet. Does anyone know what an Atlantic jet? No, you don't know an Atlantic jet. 30,000 what? Feet. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
but they might have oxygen, not mine. I wonder if they have oxygen, you know, for the plane. Some people breathe.
yeah, they generally do because dead
They're
passengers.
not that high in the
Yeah.
atmosphere.
Yeah. No. It's
The
fine.
atmosphere becomes thinner then, doesn't it?
It does. It absolutely does. Above 10,000 feet, they keep the pressure on in the cabin. We go up 3 times higher. We go 3 times higher than Everest. Everest isn't actually the highest mountain on the planet. It just happens to be the highest from the way we measure it. There's another mountain in South America that sticks out a bit further, but because of the curvature of the Earth.
Is there not one under the sea which is this tower?
Oh, yeah, there's plenty under the sea, like Hawaii and stuff.
Why is it so cold high up? Even times when it's boiling hot with the sun on the surface.
Right, there's a whole pile of physics that I don't really want to unpack right now. No. It's just that I can see that I've got a clock there on the wall. I've got my eye on it, and I got a free pass. I don't have to do anything anymore. Yeah, no. It's okay. It's okay. I'll come back another day and we can unpick all the details.
How
But
many flights have they all survived, by the way?
that was its first and only flight. It's not having another one because it's now in the headmaster's office.
What's his name?
Woody. Right, so that's the why. Now we'll do the how, and then we'll get on to the actual radio bit. So there's about 10-15 minutes of the how. Obviously, the first thing we need is a balloon. So here's a small one. This isn't a full-size one. If you are that you are allergic to latex,
Small, by the way, but we'll still be.
do not touch this because it is pure latex. But this is a balloon. I shall start at this end, and it's up to you guys to pass it round. And then you just accumulate a pile of stuff at the back. You can sniff it, lick it. You can try to expand it,
God
but
knows
you
what
probably
conditioning
find that the
will
How
landing
big does it go up to?
goes up to 100,000 feet.
100,000 feet.
100,000 feet. 3 times higher than Everest. Right, we don't get the whole balloon back. This is all we get back. The rest of the balloon
It
disintegrates. It bursts, yes. So it gets to a certain height, it bursts, and then it starts dropping out the sky. Now, because it's tied on very securely, because we don't want to lose the payload, etc. This is, as I say, sometimes we actually get about a third of a balloon, and sometimes that's all we get.
Maybe it's how it pops.
Sorry?
Maybe it's just how it pops.
Well, sometimes it's very spectacular pop, and sometimes it's just sort of like a bit of a limp. It just sort of spreads out. Now, obviously, having gone up at a steady rate, we need to stop it from falling out of the sky, so that it doesn't come crashing down. Anyone got any ideas?
Parachute.
Parachute.
Another one is I've been thinking with these ones is to have a pair of wings. Now, how would it work? Listen, this is a good one. It's a good
They've
one.
tried that in America, but it's illegal in this country and in America. So
the wings would open up like that.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
But you would actually compress. So
But
you
it's
can't
academic.
see it.
But it's academic, so we're going to leave it. Otherwise, we won't get it all done. As I say, I'll talk.
Just the thought.
Yeah, no. Most ideas have been discovered, but some of them are illegal.
I've got one.
So this is the parachute. as you can see, it's not the sort of parachute that you'd want to use. No. We wear them in gliders because they have the seats are shaped to need a parachute, and if you need a parachute, it's hard to go back for one. And that will initially, when it bursts, the payload will drop at about 120 meters a second. And it takes quite a long time before the atmosphere to become thick enough for the parachute to actually do any good. And that will then bring it down at about the same rate that we go up, which is we try and aim for 5 meters a second up. We try to aim for about 5 meters a second down, which is slow enough that you can sort of like see it coming, unless it happens to be tracking the top of your head. So if you saw it in the corner of your eye, you could go, oh, that's interesting. I wonder what that is. So, oh, I'll go and have a look.
No good as a brolly, it's got a hole in the top.
Right, so we have a parachute, and then under all of that, we have payload or payloads, depending on what we are hoping to achieve. This is a pre-prepared payload that's been taped up. It's just a polystyrene box that you might in the post get some fish or some such or what have you. Underneath the at the bottom we have a bit of tin foil to act as a ground plane for one of the antennas, and then on the top we have the other antenna, and to make it go straight we
Why
use
is it broadcast on 2 frequencies?
because it's got 2 radios. I'll come to that in a second. So we've got the world famous McDonald's straw. Literally, I collect them. So every so often I'll go, if I'm in McDonald's, I'll go and get some straws, and then we just sort of. Well, I've usually bought something at the same time. So the we have it just keeps it a bit straighter than I like. We've got a GPS antenna on the top. Why have we got it on the top? What's his name? What's his name? It's gentleman.
The one that should up.
Yeah. Sorry? Willem. Why have we put the GPS on top?
So it can track it wherever it goes.
Yeah, but why the antenna on top? We could put it underneath.
Because it might well be better because of the conductive effect, with the effects of the actual polystyrene. So as an educated guess, it might well go on the outside, and so it can locate where it goes.
Yeah, but
goes back.
would it work okay if it was underneath, pointing at the ground?
Huh?
Would it work okay if it was pointing at the ground, the GPS?
It might do, but the trouble is to balance. When the balloon bursts, that brick there, well, basically, if it's balanced enough, it should parachute enough. As a GPS, it'll tell us where it is.
Yeah,
The satellites are higher up than that, yeah.
Yeah,
Am I right?
That's the easy answer.
Ish. You're getting there. Right. So the payload coming round is a small box. We have one size up. That's a large box. I habitually, because the rig is that I have is what you might call a classic, an original pie in the sky, that also does the RITI. So I have grown sufficiently paranoid that I put a backup homemade, what is this, Arduino Pro Mini with a LoRa chip and a cheap and cheerful GPS that claims it's EU blocks, but it's from China, so that's unlikely. So I'll pass that round. So I also have that on the string as well, just as a backup, because you're running a Raspberry Pi in there, and that's a Linux computer, and they do occasionally go off piece, lock up, generally screw up. So we also have that on the string, and I'll talk about what we're hoping to achieve in the next week or so. Now inside that box, the polystyrene box, we have a Raspberry Pi with a couple of radios and a GPS on. I'll just make sure that's firmly on. I'll pass this round, but as I say, this is like passing round. If this was Antiques Roadshow, someone would be going, "My God, is that a version 2 pits? Oh my God, I haven't seen one in those I think this is my first time." So yeah, and if you're not meant to be here, don't look into the camera, because we are live. As long as my Wi-Fi works. Come on, you can do it. There we go. We are live on there, because part of the reason we use the Raspberry Pi is at the side. The part of the reason we use the Raspberry Pi was because it was a platform that was feasible for someone to bring together all the software to do the GPS tracking and do the 2 radios, and also take pictures, which are stored in high resolution on the SD card inside, but can also then transmit in a reasonably fast fashion over the internet. Afterwards, I'll open that box up after I've turned it off, and you can see what the 3-layer sandwich is that's on the inside. You have to hold that pose for a minute. It takes a picture once a minute. It is reasonably regular, so it's taking it about once every 2 minutes. I don't know. Right, okay, so that is everything that we put together, and that gives the students the opportunity to either build the payload or sort out the tracker units, or have a go at building their own if they're up to it, an Arduino backup tracker unit, or just participate in the logistics, or the project management. There's a whole raft of different activities that they can get involved in, and I do really cool things with them, like for instance, I'll give them a bit of a half a SMA lead and tell them that I need an antenna, and it depends on where they are with their maths and their physics as to how much I tell them. Some of them end up having to figure it all out from dividing the speed of light by the frequency, and then I say, well, it's a quarter wave, please. Can you get it to the nearest millimetre? And then they come back and it's actually 5 millimetres too short. So we then play this sort of constant game until we end up with a little nubbin at the end, and I say, let's start again. Mostly they've learned to get that sorted out. So there's a whole raft of stuff that goes into that, and it's usually a whole series of mini workshops or after school sessions, and then that builds up to the launch, which looks typically something like, no, not that one. Possibly this one. So that was a more complex payload, as sponsored by the Bakewell Pudding Company, and this was a BBC microbit. I actually had 2 cameras trying to take pictures of the microbit in flight, and so the students then sort of get stuck in with doing the launch. Oversaturated this. You can see that there's a pink pudgy person looking rather hot and bothered there. There's nothing quite like not swearing when you are surrounded by a whole pile of year 4s and the headmaster and etc, etc, etc. Don't open it. Don't open it.
I didn't know.
Right, okay. It's all right, just don't. Right, okay, the camera's actually come slightly dislodged, so let me just rescue the camera.
That's okay.
No.
No, you're not to open it.
Yeah, no. This is an antique, one of a kind. It is. There are no more of those left. To replace it, it would cost me over £300, and it's not quite the same. But I'll build my own anyway. But anyway, so
Did you build it?
Sort of. So you can see the balloon there. you can see that we've got a hydrogen cylinder, we've got the really precision weighing apparatus, a milk carton with water in. You can see the mandatory box.
Yeah.
I buy these off Amazon in batches every so often. And off it goes. And in that particular instance, it flew off into space. Sadly, that one was why I use an additional tracker, because it got lost. And that really is the BBC News website. And within 24 hours, there were about 150 websites around the world all reporting on that, which was rather embarrassing. Actually, I spot the thunder there.
Good advertising for the Bakewell pudding company.
You'd have thought so, but they were. I almost lost it in there because I tried to explain to them how brilliant this was. So this was the original where it got lost. Actually, I then ended up doing several radio interviews. There's actually a tweet here from Stephen Fry.
What's it say?
My country, as in, oh no, we've lost something really important. And then it was found 3 months later by a farmer, in the field, and he sort of like looked at it and went, "What the hell?" Now, top tip: no one or nothing ate the Bakewell pudding. I think they're lovely, but
Somebody else didn't, obviously.
But none of the wildlife, the 3 months it was in this asparagus field, went anywhere near the aforementioned Bakewell pudding.
Tells you something.
It's like a Yorkshire.
I say Bakewell tart.
I say it's tart.
I say tart.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, that's where you end up being tarred and feathered and run out of Bakewell.
Yep, you go there, they give you a right mouthful. If
Oh
you go
yeah,
there.
there are 2 original Bakewell pudding shops, and in between there's a really great cafe that does all different sorts of German and Austrian sausages.
I like the occasional tart. That's another story, so.
Just ignore him.
No, it's fine, it's fine. Let me just slightly expand that. So that was it after 3 months in the field. As you can see, it's land's pretty much intact. I mean, I've had them actually land, and they've ended up with quite a dint in them, and nothing bad has happened yet. But you can see that the pudding was completely untouched. Absolutely.
Survived the British weather as well.
Well, I think it was on the edge of the field. I think someone had thrown that, so it may have had a bit of hedge cover. But what I found curious was, this is in Lincolnshire. There's plenty of wildlife around. Nothing had nibbled at it. Nothing at all. I mean, I was the one that wired it on in the first place, so I was quite familiar with that Bakewell pudding. So that's all part of the fun. The other part of the fun for the students is that they go out to McDonald's on the trip. Seems to be their most important thing. But for 10 minutes they are interested in the tracker. So this is a Raspberry Pi with a touch screen on. This is an antique as well. So.
Well, don't touch the bugger.
Now you can look at it, but you don't no disassemble. So this is a Raspberry Pi touchscreen with a Raspberry Pi 2. It's got a Wi-Fi dongle on it and also a keyboard. Because
That's your question. Why do you call it a Raspberry Pi?
why is it called a Raspberry Pi?
I wondered that. Why did you get
Right.
Raspberry
Okay.
Pi?
We'll cover that later because it's a long, complicated story. I was on the forums before they launched ever. And then, as I say, once they got a bit commercial, I've left them to it. Right, so anyway, so they have a tracker, which is entirely portable, as you can see. We usually have on the minibus 3 antenna, diamond mag mounts, nothing particularly exciting from your perspective. But it does mean that when we pull up in motorway service stations, that we all put on dark glasses and get out and walk across, and everyone counts the antenna on the minibus. The reason we have 3 is because I have a LoRa receiver of my own, and I also have the tortured signal of hell, which everyone else thinks is fax, but it transmits RTTY, not a particularly standard configuration, but it provides a secondary backup, and without sounding too patronising, it keeps you lot happy as well, because lots of you don't have LoRa, but you do have.
Can you explain what LoRa is?
I will when we get to that section. So we've got two radios. One's LoRa, posh and newfangled, and then we've got old school RTTY, because the guy who M0 RPI, Dave Akerman, he did all of this. Like people popped up a couple of years later and said, "Oh, I'm going to do this," and you go, "Why?" He's like mastered it.
Who cuts the boards? Are they just basically Chinese imports and you bang your
No, we don't fly Chinese imports. I'll actually come to think of that. I'll pass around some of my own work. I make.
Where are the boards made? That's what I meant. Are they made in China, Africa, Europe?
I get mine done in Kent.
They make it over here.
That's even worse.
Yeah, but I can drive down. Right, so my wife's main business is security modules,
They make it here.
which we make in the UK because they are for security. They are literally going into security systems. Yeah, I walk into various supermarkets and I can go, oh, it's probably using our module. I personally do Internet of Things, which is usually some sort of sensor with a small radio. The one that says Hive IQ is a BLE Bluetooth transmitter that transmits the temperature and humidity inside beehives.
What good is it all the way up there, though? Can you use it?
What, in a beehive?
Oh, I was thinking like it was on the bottom.
No. These are what this is. When people wonder why I do this stuff, it's because I was already doing this stuff, and I'm just showing you the stuff that I do. Yeah, that doesn't make much sense either. Just go with the flow. So I make little radio boards, and the first one coming around is a Bluetooth one that goes inside a beehive. I then have something that hears that Bluetooth and then sends it over LoRa or Wi-Fi so that it can then be fed into a dashboard, and you can go, oh yes, they're warm little buggers. Oh yes, they're all good. Oh yes, the weight's going up. Oh no, it's all gone horribly wrong.
So is a beehive not a figure of speech then? Because I was thinking it could be a figure of speech.
No, I've got 2 in my garden and 2 in Howbridge
Are they
crematorium.
difficult to keep?
No, it just hurts when you get it wrong.
Is that hurts HCRCZ?
Sorry?
That's the worst pun ever. Carry on.
No, if it's a pun, I've got to hear it. Say again.
He's
trying to make
I
it
said
Hertz, H-E-R-T-Z, right, no.
I spelled it wrong anyway. As well.
Yeah, it's all right, okay, I'm with you, right, okay, so. Right. There's a couple of other bits that you can come and have a look at later on. About once a day from 4 locations around the country, the Met Office sends one of these up into the air. This is a cheap and cheerful disposable radio sonde. It doesn't even have a McDonald's thing on it. They just rely on it being a bit more pokey. But it's the government, so if it lands and hits anybody, that's more their problem. Usually uses a saltwater battery, and there is a hobby for some people of tracking these, and there's a hobby of some people tracking these and going to fetch them, which is how I come to have a couple.
Quick quasi. Do we ever think about the use of rockets? Because rockets can be extremely cheap and they can be extremely powerful.
They don't
but
go anywhere near
is
as
the
high.
engines are difficult to make at times.
No, they don't go as high. They can't go as high. The price performance ratio of hydrogen against a rocket is just incomparable.
Don't take it.
Well, no, I mean you could drag two kilos up for about 20 quid's worth of hydrogen, 2 kilos up to the same sort of height on a rocket, that'll be a whole different ball game. Here's a backup tracker I made. I cleverly put a SMS. You can come and have a look at the. This is a Variboard special. I cleverly put an SMS on it, and then it got stuck at the top of a tree, and I spent 18 hours with it telling me where it was, even though I already knew. Which was.
I've got an idea.
Right.
Besides that GPS, what you need to transmitter and the directional antenna. So when you get close to
I
it,
take a
somewhere
Yagi
weird,
with me.
Get it out and then just.
Well, the GPS is so accurate that unless it's trees,
What frequency is it on? Is it 1.2 or 2.4?
1.2 or 2.4.
Is it 23 cents or 13 cents or more?
No, it's neither of those. I'll come to that when I talk about the radio. Right, at home I run a Pi gateway so that I can hear. Because I've got 2 LoRa devices, I've got a splitter so that I can hear on the 2 different channels. And more sophisticated variants of brave people can actually uplink to the payload whilst it's in flight. And at one point, Dave Akerman, who writes the software for that, actually ended up telnetting in and playing one of the original games. And when I say original, I mean from the 60s, 70s, text-based adventure game. And someone said on IRC, "Oh, go on, reboot, see what happens." So we did. And it just comes back. I mean, it's fairly robust. So this is a dedicated gateway unit, not something that you necessarily need to get into if you want to start receiving LoRa transmissions. Again, just a Pi 2 with a Wi-Fi dongle on, and it's got a little hat that has the 2 LoRa radios on. And then I can hear a number of different things. What else have I got over here? To get the gas into the balloon, we use a rather nice brass. This is for hydrogen. It looks better than it looks fancier than the helium one, which is just a push. This one's got pressure gauges and everything to tell you how badly off you're going to get. In the Second World War, we used to send care packages of a hydrogen balloon with a trailing wire underneath from Kent across when the wind was blowing in the right direction, which it is most of the time. And those wires would then drape over various transmission lines, electric or communications, and bugger them up. It was actually the only time that any women in the armed forces had access to a gun, because they were short-staffed. So they said, "I'll tell you what, to guard the ladies who are filling the balloons, we'll give the other ladies a gun." And the ladies filling the balloons got the short straw because occasionally the balloons blew up. They were inside a tent, so the overpressure was literally in their face, and they ended up singed. So with schools we use helium for obvious reasons, but that's quite expensive now. You no doubt figure out from the configuration of the balloon and some imagination, and if you're lacking in imagination, I didn't actually check, but there may well be a machine in the gents. There should be a machine in the ladies as well for equality reasons, but it's pretty much the same sort of deal. You slide the sheath over the end. We then use cable ties to keep it sealed with a bit of gaffer tape and fill it up, and then very, 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 very carefully remove it from that while sealing it and holding on to it so that we don't let go and then go, "Oh, bye." We'll all go home now. Right, so that is pretty much the how. If we look at the HAB website, parachutes, ready.
I'll be well proud of the fact that their pudding remained uneaten.
Well, it was one of the companies, one of the 2 companies, so it wasn't Bakewell as a whole.
Not good, is it, for people putting to cars, is it?
Well, it's only between us and a few other people I've done this sort of talk to.
Now it's global now.
Put on the YouTube video.
Oh, YouTube, yeah.
You'd be surprised. Really, all of the good news. No, all of the really good stuff. Because we thought it wasn't good for me because I obviously lost the payload for 3 months.
Yeah.
But you would have thought Bakewell would have made hay out of that. But they're not that. Their marketing function overall wasn't that bright. Yeah. I've worked for myself for over 30 years, so when I say marketing function, I genuinely saw there was an opportunity for them to promote Bakewell, as seen on NASA or whatever. But no. Anyway, so we track all of the received signals either from the tracker box, wherever it is, or the gateway at home, or if I've bothered to put the RTTY in, I will also be transferring the RTTY over, and a selected number of you good people, because we've usually got about 10 or 15 people across the country, and 2 or 3 are in France and Holland that listen to the signals, because we do an announcement on a Google group and they go, oh yeah, I'm going to dial into that and get some of that action. And we can see at the moment that the LoRa radio is picking that up, and can see where we are. And he says, it's just going to sit down so we can see the screen a bit better. And you can see where my house is on this green dot here. Oh, no, sorry, that's Ross's house, but he actually obscures the GPS coordinates slightly. So the receivers that are set up full time operate on there. We can see that it knows that the payload is playing. Well, no. Honestly, I when it's messy, I will use my very old Garmin, and I'm like going. It's a U-Box 8. Yeah, yeah. Put it this way, I got very frustrated because Woody landed in a quarry, and they had a drone, but they didn't know how to do a go-to position on the drone. I said, if you just did go-to, then you could just stand under the drone, and it'd be at your feet. So there's a website that we can use to track this. Let me just show you one of our favourite Woody shots. This was when we knew we were in trouble, because that actually landed in the second largest quarry in Europe. But with military precision, the site supervisor just went, yeah, okay, we'll go and get it then, because we knew precisely where it was. We had the tracker. We could even see that it was on its side in a particular sort of rock, and they could tell which level in the quarry it was. So that's all good. So that's the how we do these things. Are they part of the club or? Oh, right. Okay. So on to the next bit, which is, but before I do that, has anyone got any absolutely, I really don't understand any of this type questions?
What authority have you got to get to launch?
Right. English, we are so soft, as you already know, that we can do pretty much anything we like as long as it's not illegal. And they are pretty, but there are European laws that say we have to do certain things. And the way it works in this country is I fill out this lot electronically, And 27 and a half days later, I then spent 2 hours on the phone following up the Civil Aviation Authority, who then rubber stamped my application on the grounds, 1, I'm not that stupid, 2, I've done it before, and 3, it's me. Well, should they refuse me? No, really.
You've got a license.
As long as you're not a known idiot,
Well, don't bother.
then they have no reason to refuse you. So in Bolton they will say that it can't go. It must go in a northerly direction. So I have to wait for a prediction that puts it in a northerly direction. But apart from that, it's free. I just have to give them 28 days notice.
Do you have to gain permission from the CAA in advance?
Yes.
And if so, what about flights on the day? I'm thinking of hobby pilots which are flying around a couple of thousand feet.
Right.
You know, one of those things could do untold damage to a small aircraft.
No.
Do you
No.
have to keep in touch with the
No.
ground controls?
No. No. Well, it depends. There is a school in the centre of London that does launch, but they have to do it at 5 o'clock in the morning on the say-so of the air traffic
To avoid
control.
Heathrow.
Well, they have to actually go north, but it's London Airport that's the problem. No, we don't. Sometimes they may say that we have to liaise with the air traffic control, but those of us who understand aviation, mostly because we either fly or because we've been doing this long enough, don't present a situation that would cause issue. Frankly, if the latex balloon hit the underneath of an aircraft, I think it just bounced off. It's going up at about 5 meters a second. It just,
It's more what it does to the engine.
well, if it got in front of the engine, yes, but yeah, I mean, I fly, so I'm aware of the potential, but there's never been any particular issue. Occasionally, a camera might spot an aircraft flying past, but most of those are photoshopped. But we're air users just like everybody else. Well, we put a radar reflector on. Yes, I mean, you wouldn't necessarily be able to avoid it. I've had the bejesus scared out of me by a Harrier Hawk that decided to dive me while I'm coming into land. So I'm like coming into land, I'm doing my turn, I look ahead, because you mostly look in front in a sailplane, and there's this whoosh. Yeah, and after a bit of a ropey landing, McCloud. Yeah, just gonna go to the loop. I think it realised when it got quite close that I was bigger than it. So, you know. Right. Anyway, so on to the radio element of this. So we use LoRa because it has incredible range and works below the noise floor on quite a minuscule amount of power. The little LoRa, the one with the little antenna attached to it, device that I sent round, I can configure one of those such that it will run for 5 years on 2 AA batteries, sending in a message once an hour with temperature and whatever, some such, and it will just keep on chugging. To the extent that they're a bit of a liability now, because people don't tend to change the batteries, partly because they can't remember where they put them either, because it's 5 years later on, and they haven't got the software to tell them where they put the damn things. But in terms of environmental sensing, it's a good balance, because it just keeps on going. And you probably get 95% of the transmissions, because it's on the ISM band 868, and there will be a certain amount of interference. So Dave Akerman, the guy who put together the first bundle, saw that these LoRa chips were going to be really good, and because it is the 434 part of the spectrum is ISM in the UK, he thought, well, why don't we make use of that, and we'll get the range, and so that little payload box with the dinky antenna that we've got on there. I've had flights that have been over Corby, and by Pythagoras I reckon I was about 112 kilometres from the dinky antenna to my mag mount that I happened to throw on the roof of the house before I left. So I wasn't running a particularly awesome particular sort of antenna setup. It was just sort of needs must because I was doing everything in a bit of a hurry that week. And I got that. The LoRa record is about almost 700 kilometres as a sort of point to point. And it's gaining traction for meter readings and the like, because it can just sort of sit there and send a message out. The LoRa system was originally invented by a lady,
What was the name?
Hedy Lamar.
Headed in Mar, yeah. Big article this last month's Practical Wireless. Was it?
She invented a thing for controlling torpedoes as well, didn't she?
That's the one.
Did.
Using,
It was
using piano rolls, I think.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. So the problem, her and somebody else came up with an idea to stop the Germans jamming torpedoes as they went through the water by switching frequencies in conjunction, and they used piano rolls to do that at both the transmitter and the receiver end that were running in sequence, so it knew which frequency to listen on, so they couldn't jam it so easily.
Good question. It must have been our valve because transistors didn't really commercially appear on the market until the early 50s.
Yeah, it must
So
have
you're
been.
talking about that, it must be our valve.
Yeah, it was.
A lot of it would have been valved and done by hand, you know.
Yeah.
Nothing automatic like that. Too much.
Well, the piano roll works automatic. Anyway, so Hedy Lamar comes up with the idea for spread spectrum technology. And as we all know, GPS works off that. And